Okay, so continuing on with Unreal Engine. First of all, I just wanted to point out that when you create your project, as we did last time, what it does is it creates this project folder, okay, with whatever name it is that you gave it. So when you come back to load your game up again, if you click this folder, within all these subfolders, you've got all the content that's stored within your game. Okay, you can have a look at that if you want, but this here is the actual Unreal Engine project folder. It's like .u project. You can't just double click this and it then open the Unreal Engine. Okay, so remember, every time you open your project, you need to actually go into the Epic Games launcher and then launch Unreal Engine and then launch your project as we did before. Okay, and then it will reload your project again. Okay, so it's not like, if you just had like a Word document where you double click it and it opens the software for you. You have to go in through the launcher each time. Okay, so just bear that in mind. Now, this time what we're going to do is go a bit further with creating a level essentially. So with this default project that we opened, there's all this stuff in here that we don't necessarily want. So if you click it and push the delete key on the keyboard, it will remove it for you. But as I start removing things, you'll notice that these boxes, which you probably already noticed, you can hit them and they move around. When I delete them, they kind of go away without a problem. But this big section here, when I deleted that, it's left behind the shadow. And if I do that again with this one, push delete, deletes the box, but the shadow it created is left behind. Okay, which doesn't happen with these other things. We can fix that in a second though. Just delete everything first. This word there is also something. This stuff here, so you've got a little like sun icon, some little strange things there like an orb, and a camera and like a little controller. Don't delete those because you need them. And here's the thing that we made last time. Delete that. Okay, so this thing here looks like a little controller with a flag on it. It says it's like network player start. It's essentially called. That's the like spawn point for your character, right? So if I push play, that's where my character loads. Or the template might have it set up there. Let me just test that. So if I move him right back there, push play. Yeah, I'm still in the middle. Okay. Okay, typically that's not how it would work if you created a new level, but in this template, I suppose it is. So the spawn point is actually this with the camera and the arms. So if I move that over there, I start against this wall here. So what I can do, I can rotate him around. See, you've already been messing around with the move, rotate, and scale tools. If you want the shortcuts for those, it's W, E, and R to move between them. So if you just push E, it gives you rotate. And I can just rotate that around, okay? So it changes the start position of the character if you need to do that. So anyway, fixing this problem. So what's happened is, what you can do is you can kind of what's called baking the shadow into the actual texture. The reason it does that is so that it doesn't need to calculate all those shadows each frame the game is running. So if it needed to calculate everything every single time, it would take up a lot more processing power. So if that's actually baked into the texture, so it's already sort of on there, it's just an image. So it doesn't have to calculate it every time because it's always going to be there in the same place. But those other boxes that we deleted, because they move around, you can't bake that texture into the surface because then the box would move and the shadow would stay where it was and it would look weird. So those ones have been kind of baked in. Okay, that's kind of what that means. So what we can do is we go up to build up here there's a little arrow next to build. What you can do is you can build the lighting, okay, which will recalculate all the lighting changes that you've made. So if I click that, it can take a little while, particularly if you have lots of lights in your level. That's weird. Something like that. You might get that at home as well, just push allow. Okay, you'll see down the bottom right here, it shows you the progress. Hopefully it doesn't take too long. And if you keep your eye on where these shadows are, they should disappear when it gets to 100%. You guys might have better computers than me, and it might be quicker. Okay, and there we go. Those have gone now. Okay, so that's what essentially this build lighting is going to do. So what I'll do, if I, for example, you'd have to do this, if I bring in a random light, see up here in red, it says the lighting needs to be rebuilt. It's essentially because there's been a change to the effect of the lights in the level, so it needs rebuilding again to recalculate it. All right, but anyway, that's why that happens. But what we're going to do now is just do something a bit more advanced in terms of creating geometry, because at the moment, if we just use the starter content, just limited to these things here, which if we wanted, we could create other bits of geometry in a separate 3D modeling package, like 3D Studio Max or Blender or something. If that's something you really want to investigate, then Blender is free and you can download that and have a go. But we can also modify geometry within the Unreal Engine itself. It's not ideal, but for us, and on a time limit, that's what we're going to do rather than learning two pieces of software. So if you go to geometry down the left-hand side, you've got these different bits of geometry that you can add in as a starting point. So if I just drag in this box like that, you'll see the box that we have here. This is slightly different to if you go to basic, you'll notice that there is also a cube. If you drop in, these cubes are like the ones that were there originally, but we can't really do much to edit them, so we don't really want that. In geometry, the box, when we add that in, that's this. These are ones that we can edit. Okay, so first of all, if you've got the box selected and you come over here, make sure you've got details open. You can do things like scaling it, moving it, rotating it, all that kind of thing. But it's slightly complicated in the way that it works, mainly to do with if you're adding textures to it. So what I would recommend doing every time you edit this box is come down to the tab that says brush settings. Okay, so you've got X, Y, and Z as the main ones. They start at 200. They're the ones you're going to want to use to scale it, because if I can do an example, if I get the scale tool up here and I scale it like that, look what's happened to all those boxes, like they've been stretched. Okay, whereas if I go to scaling here, you see they haven't been stretched, they've been kind of multiplied. Right? The main time you're going to see that as an issue is if I add a material to this. If I add that brick material to that surface, the bricks look fine. Okay, but if I stretch the box by scaling it with the scale tool, look at the brick texture, it's all stretched and obviously it looks horrible. Okay, but if I come over here and scale it, the bricks are still uniform in scale. All right, so that's obviously really important. If you're adding textures to objects and they're all stretched and look horrible, that'll be why that's happened. All right. You'll also notice that when you add editing geometry and you add materials, it adds it per surface rather than to the whole thing. Okay, so you might have different materials depending on the actual side of the object. All right, so that's that. I'm just going to delete that one. Also, if you're in your materials, okay, and you have a material selected and you drag a box in, it will automatically apply that material to the whole thing. If you don't want that to happen, just go out of materials and drop your box back in. Okay, so what if I wanted to edit this box rather than just scaling it? You can come over here to geometry editing, and you'll notice that the box goes blue. Okay, so what I can then do in this instance, I can just grab that side and extend it. You can kind of manually do things, which can also be easier. So make like a big room or something here. And you can see when you do that, it keeps all the boxes uniform as well, which is great. You can also over here, so you've got edit, which is what we've just been doing. If we go over to extrude, you always get this error, but just push don't show again because it's annoying. And you can select the surface and you drag it up, but rather than just moving that surface up, it's created another surface so that I now have this edge or this surface here, which I could extend outwards. Okay, if we hold Control, you can select multiple ones at once. So I could, create a sort of little kind of overhanging roof thing going on there. Okay, so obviously you can play around with that as much as you want to create lots of different kind of shapes and things. Maybe it's got like some kind of balcony thing on top. I don't know. You can sort of play around with this to create whatever it is you want. Ultimately, you'll be using this to create your levels.